Well, you briefly mentioned that you were site super. Like, can you tell us about the progression from QC to site super?
Well, that's an interesting question because I feel that most people would just, there's people out there that do a task and they do it for a long time and they become really good at it. You know, basically would kind of, I think quality control was what I was in the most, and then once I sort of got that license, I was like, well, I want to focus on electrical. I want to be an electrical superintendent. And when I got in there, I kind of felt lost. And you know how each company's different, each role does different things. But, I felt like my authority was stripped, and I just went to some boring gig where I'm just like making sure everything goes the way it's supposed to. Right. Whereas with quality control, it was like, I found some shit. Yeah. I mean, I loved finding problems. In fact, it became a bad thing and it made me realize that all I'd do was look for problems. It became a problem. No, but
I found one.
Yeah. But and Nick, your problem is you tell people about their problems. Like I would go to people's houses and they'd be like, "What do you think about my kitchen?" I was like, "Man, the trim, man, the miter saw met up there, really could, you know." But yeah, going to be an electrical super, I felt like it was incredibly boring. And my first gig with that was a site that it was Pine Gate's first transmission site called Bowman, and we had a company. Are we not just throw names out there? Just like, well, they're not around anymore, so I can perhaps disparage a little bit.
Yeah, go for
it. We
it.
had a reach out there, and it was a reach to get them to do the work, and we ended up having real problems with that situation. And it was a site that had a lot of water issues. The proverbial we went against some of the farmers recommendations, and probably were told some things that weren't true as far as the way the water built up during certain parts of the year. But it made for a very exciting job, aside from me feeling like I was just someone that shepherded, the sheep along the process. The excitement was in the challenges, and so I guess I started to realize that being a superintendent could be as good, But like I said, I guess I sort of missed just the problem solving and the problem finding of quality. So there was an adjustment, but once I realized that essentially, you still want to look for problems and correct them, so I still was quality, and I started to then appreciate my background in quality as it would apply to be an electrical superintendent. So yeah, I did just, kind of make sure stuff went along, but, I felt that I could kind of put an extra touch on things and make sure they got done kind of in a better way. And so that was a struggle for me because I was still that stickler guy, as a quality control. And people were like, kind of bucking some of the things I'd say, like, we're just trying to get shit done, Nick. You're slowing us down. So I had to strike that balance. And then ultimately, my biggest challenge was just starting to negotiate with people. Again, quality control, I could just deal with my boss. I'd feed him all the problems I found. You pat me on the back. I'd go back out in the field, find more problems. Now I got to convey these problems to people in a way that they're, happy to fix them. So that's what I used to just love to shovel on Tyler.
Me too, man. Yeah.
I remember that being a great part of my job. I was like, man, when the shit gets weird, I just say, hey, you're going to have to talk to my boss.
That's right.
I think one of the biggest things about quality control for me is I feel like you see the whole process of the farm being built. So nobody knows the progress of the farm better than quality control. So I think it's a good experience, especially as a site super. Like, oh, man, coming from that background, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I showed up as the site super and Zach will chuckle because I went from Bowman and then I floated around with Pine Gate as the guy that could help, sort of with T-Mike, during commissioning process. And then ultimately I ended up on, I supervised a 5 megawatt in cash. And then I went to Trent River to be a superintendent on a site that had the company's only other electrical superintendent. So we navigated that, interestingly enough, me and Kevin Evans, but we're both probably better for it. And I forgot what I was initially going to say about going to Trent River. Oh, when I first got there, just pulling on the QC, I got there and I'm supposed to just be the electrical superintendent, making sure everything's going fine. But of course, Kevin's like, it's fine. So, I go out in the field and there's like, oh God, Zach, what was the number? Was it like 80,000 panels that didn't have a tight bolt?
Oh man, I
It
can't
was
remember.
something.
It was like
They're
hundreds of acres.
They've all been tightened now.
Most of them
But,
have.
but at the time they were not. And so, we had a big thing about, hey, you can't count a module up if it's not, going to stay
Secured, right?
up. So that was kind of a big deal. But
that was a
Yeah.
super windy area too. So like not securing those super lightweight modules was going to be a major problem, and became a problem at very least before they got ahead of it finally.
yeah, and we'd be doing anybody disservice by not mentioning that kind of capped the end of a terrible era brought on by none other than the first wave of tariffs, because one shitty company wasn't getting their lion's share and able to build their 50 kilowatt pipeline for the year. And so we ended up with, what was it? The glass on glass, no light, glass on glass, no frame, no metal, just glue, glass, glue, glass, glue, glass. And then we put them on the in some farms, the worst racking system ever built is the RBI gear system. But nonetheless, putting those all glass mods on anything with the clips that required the rubber insert, was just a nightmare because they were inherently stiff. So sometimes you catch people trying to pry them open to make it work.
Oh yeah.
And Jesus, just a nightmare working with those glass mods.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It certainly sharpened the DC troubleshooting skills though. Finding a ground fault went from like a day-long process to a 15-minute process when it came to like, oh, this is a broken module. It had to be a broken module. Oh, it just rained and we followed it out and now we can't see the fault. Oh, okay. That's definitely a broken module,